Welcome to another episode of Master Your Marriage. Today, we are so excited to join us today on the show. We have Tarah and Kerwin, and we are going to talk about a topic that we actually haven't even addressed on our podcast in 2.5 years.
I mean, we've lived it, but we've
lived it.
But we've never addressed it, which
we've never
I don't know
talked
why.
about. So this is exciting. So let me tell you a little bit about our guests today. So Tarah and Kerwin are licensed therapists, and they are the founders of the Relationship Renovation Counseling Center. And they are also the co-hosts of the Relationship Renovation podcast. And similar to our show, they are a husband and wife podcasting duo, and they dedicate themselves to helping couples everywhere to create deeper connection and emotional safety. And together, they've spent nearly 2 decades guiding thousands of couples through their proven system that they call the relationship renovation model, which I'm sure we'll get into today. And it brings evidence-based approaches to couples around the world. And as both of them being therapists and a married couple, they are also a blended family themselves. And so they are actually here today to have a conversation with us about the unique challenges of blended families and to give us some insights, some really unique personal insights on how to help couples to navigate those challenges well. So welcome to the show, Tarah and We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. It's always I listen to the intro and I reflect on the 15 years that we've been together and what we're doing now and the support we give to couples and, being on each other's podcasts and stuff. And it's just wow, it all started from just our own suffering,
It's true.
It just starts from that. And then it's we did it. We did it. We did blended family. We did it. We got through this, right?
We're doing it.
I just love hearing it. It sinks in yeah, blended family. It feels 100 years ago. We're still in it, but we've not conquered it, but we have the emotional safety built within the two of us right now in that system to manage it, where 10 years ago, we had no clue. Absolutely not a clue.
Well, I love the little bit of conversation we had just before we hit record. And we just, we got to know you guys just a little bit more. But I love just kind of start with, I think it was important when you said, you guys got married. EJ had two kids from his previous relationship. Mm-hmm. And then you guys had twins on your honeymoon. And you went from a mom, you went from 0 to 4 children. That's almost like the speed on a Porsche. You went from 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. And you went from 0 to 4 in 9 months.
Under 5 years old.
Oh my God. I mean, the picture I always have is of when I started dating Tarah. She was living in this 2-bedroom condo in the foothills of Tucson, which is gorgeous, living this professional life, private practice, very successful woman who kind of just did whatever the heck she wanted. And then we had this amazing, honeymoon period of 1.5 years and 2 years. But our life looks so starkly different so quickly, where we got 2 babies screaming all the time. We got these 2 little boys coming in and out of our house every 3 to 4 days. And it was so stark, and I don't know why she did it.
Well, and I think too, I've been a marriage counselor for 20 years and I love kids. I never even knew that I wanted kids. But when EJ's do you want to try? I was 38. I didn't even and then to come back from our honeymoon and go and get an ultrasound, there's 2 in there. I was what are you? Because I'm a twin.
Oh,
and I am a twin. And I always, I was I know it skips a generation, even if I wanted to have. So I was 38 and then this happened. I wasn't even preparing for it. It just happened.
You're just getting that out of the way. Just boom, boom, done.
Yes. And so I'm thinking I've got how bad could 2 babies be? EJ's done this before. We've got the skills. I've been helping couples for 15 years at this point. Not a problem at all. And just that idea that assuming your expectations literally crashed our marriage. Because I'm thinking EJ already knows how to do this. He'll definitely be that guy. I had no idea what colic was. I had no idea about sleep deprivation and or doing laundry 5 times a day instead of just once a month. And so it was just like the overwhelm of it all so quickly just created such disconnection. And I saw parts of EJ and he saw parts of me. I think earlier before we started recording, you were like, yeah, I could get angry and mean. I was like, how dare you do this to me, sir? Like I was so, I've never seen that ugly part of myself. I had so much anger, so much confusion, so much disappointment. Like, how do you not know how to manage this? And why did you give me this? Like, right? And it was from that suffering and anger, I was like, this isn't me. Like we have to figure this out, but it was overwhelming. And I'm so thankful now to look back at all of the like postpartum couples with people didn't even know what postpartum was. I had serious postpartum diagnosed, but like we didn't know. We were just in the thick of it.
We knew, but we didn't know like when you're in the middle of it and it's happening.
Yeah.
But it's like the universe gave us all of this at once. I guess the universe knows I'm resilient. We're resilient. It's like, here, let's take all of this. And then one day you'll be able to help couples navigate it too, hopefully. Right?
I think there's something really valuable in what you guys just said, because I think so many people, we're meeting with a young newlywed couple this afternoon, and I think oftentimes when we get together and we have that magical honeymoon stage, whether it's pre-honeymoon or whatever, like there's a part of us that really thinks like I found my soulmate. And because I found my soulmate, this is going to be easy. This is going to be a piece of cake. And then you do, whether you get pregnant on your honeymoon like you guys, or you just get into real life, whatever real life looks like, you start to see those parts of each other. You start to see parts of yourself, like you talked about, Tarah, that you're like, I didn't even know I had the capacity to be that cruel. And you see parts of your partner, and there's this disillusionment that happens, I think, in every relationship that nobody warns you or prepares you for. It's just part of that crucible of being married and having the marriage reflect back to you those parts that still need work. We are still human. We're not this perfect person. Even you guys who had been therapists for 15, 20 years, and you know all the things that you know, can still find yourself in that disillusionment and in that place where you're still looking in the mirror going, who am I?
Yeah. And it's go ahead.
No, well, I was going to say, it's probably not going to be as insightful as what you said, but I was going to say, I wonder if, you know, how when you first get married, for us, we were young married, you know, and your parents pull you aside and they tell you all the important things. How much fun would it be? Not really fun for your mom to, you know, moms to the daughters to look at him and say, you're going to hate him in about 3 months.
Yes.
This is just a thing you need to get past. Like maybe there's some education there. Like,
well,
you're really not going to like them.
I think there is, though. I think you're right, though. I think if somebody kind of can orient you a little bit to your path, you know, it's like going out on a hike and knowing like, okay, there's going to be like a steep ascent in 1.5 miles. And it's going to be hard, but you can make it through it if you do this, and this. I mean, as you know, like you said, even though, you're prepared for it. Like we were, you know, I think maybe I was a little more prepared because I just got out of a bad relationship and was like, you know, knew that it was going to be tough. But even that, nothing prepared us. I mean, in the topic that we're talking about today, blended family, nothing protected us for that, because that's, you know, that it was so complex of like, okay, we have these 2 new children who are ours and we get to make like all of the decisions about them together, which by the way, isn't going to be the easiest thing. But then we have these other 2 kids who I'm their biological, you're not. So we won't ever relate to them in the same way that way. There's this third person who I had a really dysfunctional communication pattern with before, and now you're entering into it, and that's going to be a total mess. And there was like no preparation for that. And so it was like going for a hike in the dark without a map. And then being like surprised when like, well, we're lost. and we're dehydrated. Like
we're dying.
Yeah, we're dying. We're literally, at times it felt like we were dying.
Yeah.
So no, I think you're right onto it of like, if somebody could like sit you down and tell you like, yeah, this is going to be really hard and this is what it's going to be hard about it.
Well,
that would have been useful.
You know what's interesting though, EJ? Because I never had this before, but it paralleled like the model we created for couples, like after going through this. It's a beginning, middle, and end. And we're like, listen, during this middle part, when you guys are going through and like shredding all your layers, you're going to not ever want to come back. You have to stay when you want to walk away. Like we prepare them for the messy middle, we call it in therapy, because right, homeostasis is getting dysfunctional. And I feel like that we did that because of all couples need to know, like whether they're in couples counseling or a new relationship, like there are going to be these hiccups. And it's not like, oh, in 3 months in therapy, you're going to have the most amazing relationship ever. We're like, that absolutely is not what's going to happen. But you'll have more clarity and you'll make a decision out of clarity instead of fear. But we help them understand that there's a structure and a process to it. I think because had we had someone tell us that in our relationship or set us up for that, like, but then we wouldn't be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's true. It's like there were a blessing and a disguise. Like had we not had to go through all of those, it was like a crisis for me, for sure. We wouldn't be here today and have helped the thousands of couples we have and the model we developed that creates safety for couples based on our own story. So I feel grateful for it. And I'm grateful that I survived it, that we survived it. But most people,
I'm grateful you survived it too.
like if you're not a therapist, I was like, what's my lesson here? I'm going to learn all the lessons I have to learn from this. Like most people aren't therapists saying like, I want to learn all the lessons from this suffering.
No.
They're like, see you later. I am out of this, did not sign up for this. So I'm like, how can I help other people know that it's not about staying together? Because some couples aren't supposed to be together, but it's about having clarity and doing the work to make sure, because like EJ said, he's like, how is it that I married someone totally opposite of my ex-wife, yet the same stuff is happening?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
like
right.
it follows you. I am
does.
totally different from his ex. And that was right. We start to learn he's got massive avoidance
I got to look at
and
myself.
I've got massive anxiety. And so we grew from all of that, but most people aren't compelled to do that. They're like, this is too much. I'll see you later. And again, I'm the strongest person I've ever been because of EJ in our relationship, but there was so much to learn. And sometimes I think back at like the couples counselor I was, like, sorry, couples who saw me like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm a changed marriage counselor because of it. I had to go through some of this in order to really understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I love that quote. I always just sit back and glean off the top the cool stuff. Let Charlotte do the really deep stuff. Like your quote, I am the strongest person I know because of EJ. I love that.
Yeah.
And I mean, certainly those experiences honed you. Yeah,
and Robert always says when couples are deciding not to stay together, he always says, and you can probably say it better, Robert, just how can you become and learn the lessons so that you can become the better version of yourself so that your unfinished business doesn't continue to follow you. And that what you said is just so important, because it does. Our unfinished business will continue to follow us, and we'll continue to find ourselves in the same patterns over and over again, regardless of who's on the other side of that mirror, until we can get those lessons and grow up. I think marriage is the thing that pushes us to grow up more than any other relationship, because nobody can push your buttons like this person can, except for maybe your older teens.
Oh yeah. That's another episode right there.
That's another episode.
Your teens can, they can work on that.
EJ, you were talking about this like roadmap, and nothing prepared you. It was like being in the dark, and going hiking in the dark. And all of a sudden I flashed back, and I'll just tell you this quick story, because now I'm going to use a metaphor for what you just said. We learned to scuba dive last year.
Oh, yeah.
And
I know the story.
Do you? You know what I'm going to say?
I know exactly the story.
So we went we did all of our training dives. We got our certification, and then we went to Roatan, and we did a couple of dives there. Beautiful. And then we decided we wanted to go on our first night dive, because we heard all about the glowing plankton and all these cool things that you can see at night. And we went with this group, and they said, what we're going to do. And they're outlining the dive, what we're going to do. And they said, then we're going to get to this part about halfway through and we're all going to turn off our flashlights and we're just going to use the glow of the plankton and the moonlight and all this stuff to like get back. But we're going to come back without our flashlights in the total dark.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, okay, just as long as I'm within a foot of the dive master, I should be okay. Because as long as I'm 1 or 2 feet away, I know I can be able to see something. And Robert was having difficulty with his buoyancy because he had never been diving with a wetsuit before. And so he was much more buoyant. And of course, right when we turned off our flashlights, boing, Robert's like floating up to the surface. And I'm trying to pull him down and he's trying to like get his buoyancy right. And we look around and everyone is gone. And we are 30 feet, 40 feet down, and we have no freaking idea if to go left or to go right or to go straight. And we are alone and we're new divers. And I'm like, I'm going to die. We're going to die. What are we going to do? I am freaking out. And so anyway, I thought about what you said about being in this place of now we are 2 kids of ours, 2 kids of theirs, postpartum depression, which is legit. It is so real. And what the heck do we do? And as you were telling that story, I'm picturing myself underwater in the dark going, what do we do?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I think that's like a perfect metaphor because you're like,
and I'm gled that you're alive and you guys made it. Okay.
Because you're just like looking around and you're like, where do we go? Like, how do we just had this like massive argument where you say you want to leave me, but yet we have these 2 kids and then I have these other boys that I brought into this and we got to go to work and pretend like everything's okay. And we don't want to tell anyone in our family that it feels like it's falling apart. So, I mean, I think the hard part is like, how do you together move forward? Because it feels like that's the horribleness of it is it feels like we're totally separate too. You know, like I felt in those moments with you very alone.
Yeah. And I felt like, where is like my little Buddhist little safe guy? Like why, like I didn't know that avoidance was even a part of EJ because we never had to deal with difficult things like that. You know, I mean, like his sister passed early on in our relationship and that was hard, but he never hurt me emotionally. And when stress rose and he would leave me, like just physically, like emotionally leave me, I could feel it. And he'd be like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I'm totally fine. And I'm like, no, but you're not. Like, I can feel it. Like, you're leaving me. And like, I just never knew that was even a part of his, like one of the reasons why I loved him so much is because he's so emotionally available. And I was like, how dare you? You tricked me, you SOB. Like you are not, you just totally talked the talk and you are not walking the walk.
Yeah.
I was mad. I was like, I'm stressed out over here. I'm nursing these children every hour. You have got to manage and hold my emotions, buddy. But like, again, his avoidance, we didn't know how big it was because it looked like Buddhist non-attachment. No, that was not the case.
Yeah.
And so when you're saying Buddhist mofo, and when I'm calling my husband that, like, that is not good. Cannot say those things. And I will say this. That was one of the first parts for me, you guys. I was like, okay, I'm this angry person who's calling him very bad names. That's not me. And I said, EJ, something's going on because I know I love you, but I wanted him to take his children out, the dogs out, like just leave me, get away. Like I didn't want to have any of them around me. And I said, that's not my heart. And so I said, when I say the word burnt toast, so that's our code word. And that's part of the model we develop is like saying code word. That means I'm not going to be good for myself or anybody else. And I need a timeout for myself because I don't know what's happening. I just know that I don't want to say things that I don't mean because that's not my heart. And code word, this was before we even, decided to open up a couples counseling practice. I feel like code word saved our relationship because it let EJ know I'm willing to do my own individual work to stop this angry behavior. Like I was so resentful and I kept wanting to blame him for everything. And I was like, actually, that's not me. Like, I remember who I am. And although I'm stressed out, like, I don't want to be that person all of the time. So I would go read an Us magazine. I'd go listen to Tara Brach podcast because I love her. And I would just take like 10 to 15 minutes to just be like, this isn't me. And I don't want to look and think of EJ as like a monster because he's not. So that was like one of the first steps. Like, I think that, and I said that to EJ, I'm like, I'm just going to say burnt toast. And that just means like either you remove yourself from my like I I orbit, or I'm just going to go remove myself because I'm too overstimulated.
That's such an overrated tool. People don't realize the power in that because when you are
Yeah,
in that dysregulated state, Robert and I always say it's like being your adaptive 6-year-old self.
for
And
sure.
you have zero capacity to be relational. There's zero understanding of a win-win situation. It's
Yeah.
completely self-protective. It's all about the me consciousness. There is no
Uh-huh.
us in the conversation. And when you both get like that, and it becomes so contagious that you both end up
Yeah.
that way, that our little saying we say on the podcast all the time, it's like two 6-year-olds driving a bus down the street and you're just taking out the fire hydrants and the trees and hitting mailboxes, and it's just a disaster. And so just that awareness of I am not okay. I am
Yeah.
not my best self. I think it's a moment to moment in any relationship, whether it's a
Yep.
blended family or with kids or without kids. It's like
Mhm.
you have to be so aware of where you are moment to moment in your relationship. If you're your wise
Yep.
self or
Yep.
whether you are your 6-year-old self.
I
Yep.
think I think it's the most grown up thing that you can demonstrate in your relationship that you just talked about. The
Mm-hmm.
self awareness, as you said, I don't want to hurt you anymore by saying things that are in my head that are going to
Mm-hmm.
come out if I hang out here for a little bit longer.
Yes.
So we're going to come up with this code word. I love the burnt toast. I love hearing other people's codes. We met with a couple once, and their favorite code word is carrots.
Carrots.
Oh,
They
yeah.
say carrots, but it's more of a pattern break for them. If the
Yeah.
conversation's starting to veer a little bit, they're like carrots.
Yeah.
Like, hang on, you're right. That was funny. Let me just work on a correction here. Let me work on
Yeah.
a repair, and then gets back on track. But burnt toast is great for take a break. I like that one.
So what
Yeah.
else helped you in the early days? So you talked about like that was would you say that was one of your first steps, was just figuring out when you were dysregulated and
I think
pausing things?
so.
That,
I think that
yeah,
the next step for us
this was huge, actually.
was then, okay, then what?
Yeah.
Okay, we can stop it. But if I just go away and I just spend the next 15 minutes being like, I cannot believe her. Like,
Mhm.
she is so irrational. Like, she's acting crazy. If I just spend that time just circulating in my brain,
Yeah.
how focusing on her, then I come back with just about as much charge.
Yeah.
And so for us, the next step was like, how do I make like a commitment that when we do pull apart in that difficult moment, that I reflect inward, that I hold a mirror up, I look at myself, I take myself through a process of what was the trigger, what was the first thing I thought, because for me that would help me if I knew like the minute I think, here we go again, like I know like I'm going to a bad place,
Mhm.
and just from my thought to my feelings to what am I doing? Well, I'm withdrawing, I'm judging. And then what does this remind me of getting me down to like this, what is the negative core belief that's being activated? So if I go into a process of self-examination and then I can come back to her and take total accountability and
Yeah.
not focus on her and what she got
Mhm.
wrong, but instead of like, hey, this is exactly what was happening for me. And then when we were able to share that and she did the same
And
thing, we would have like empathy towards one another
Yes.
because we weren't blaming one another. It was a process that got me personally out of blaming.
we just took basically cognitive behavioral restructuring, and we did like a couples restructuring process to help us identify, right? Because I do a lot of CBT in my work, automatic thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and like how do you go deeper and how do you identify the negative core beliefs that are like my 6-year-old self that are getting activated in that moment. And
Yeah.
now how do I be my adult self and be like, actually, you can handle it. You are significant. You are safe. But our nervous system reacts to a trigger like we're our 8-year-old self or 13-year-old self. And so now we have this tool and this process to be like, what does it remind me of? What is my body telling me? And then you can kind of restructure it in that moment, like for a lot. And it's usually 2 or 3 negative core beliefs. Listen to this, that are running the show, no matter how different that argument is. Mine was, I'm not safe and I'm insignificant. And those were my childhood trauma beliefs that, of course, I was able to manage, because if someone started to trigger that, I'm going to leave you. Goodbye. Next relationship, please. Serial monogamist right here. Well, now I'm with this guy. We got married and we had children. So I can't just say goodbye. I actually had to look at it. But before, I kept running from it, but I didn't think I was running from it. I was just like, oh, that person's just like not for me. And now I realize like EJ was the person that helped me build all of that emotional safety and look at my trauma. And it wasn't until him that I could do that for whatever reason. And so again, relationships are a gift. That blended family nightmare in the beginning was a gift to help me grow and stabilize and grow my nervous system and be the adult that I wanted to be, finally at the age of 40 something now. But yeah, that restructuring process was really important. And we take couples through it kind of in the middle. You can't go to it quickly right on, because some people don't even recognize there's negative core beliefs under the triggers. So you just have to get really attuned to make sure they're ready to go there, because it's powerful when you start to identify these little beliefs that we make up when we're young to make sense of the world or bad things happening to us. Yeah. But now that I know EJ's, his is like, I can't be me. And I'm like, no, I want you to be you, honey. Like that, I know that reminds you, like my behavior reminds you of like when you're 12 and your teacher's yelling at you or whatever, or your dad. I was like, but I want you to be you. So don't relate that feeling to me. That's huge, because then it's separate. But most couples get caught in that you're doing that to me and you're making me feel the same way this horrible person made me feel when I was 5. But that's just not true. But our nervous system doesn't know it's not true. It's just the same feeling, whether it's 15 years ago or 5 minutes ago. It just knows the feeling. So it defends how it needs to defend.
And your nervous system is right back there, back in the past. You know, Robert and I, like I'm sure he could share this a little bit, but you know, one of the ways that in which we would do conflict early in our relationship, we told you before the show started, there's like 7 or 8 marriages between our 2 parents. So we saw a lot of really crazy modeling growing up. But Robert's mom was married 4 times, and then his dad was remarried and then divorced. And so you can probably imagine the core belief that would be behind a small child who's going through this much change, with this many people coming in and out, leaving. What do you think the core belief is? Everybody
I have no
leaves.
Control. Yeah. Or
and everyone leaves me. Everyone leaves me. And so that was if you look at the way we fought, now both of us being pretty volatile in our conflict style, what do you think would happen when we would have a fight, when Robert was like, everyone leaves me? So when we would get into a conflict, instead of being smart and wise and taking that break when you're dysregulated, the person who has that core belief that if I don't save this right now, right here, right now, everybody leaves. Oh my gosh. Like that was a huge thing early on. And it still pops and rears its head every once in a while. Like there's still that, like,
still battle that. But how truthful would I should call this the truth in marriage. Can you imagine the marriage ceremony? It's like, do you abandonment issues take defensive and withdrawing to be your lawfully wedded?
I love it. I love this. That's awesome.
Yes, I do. Do you love and live and hold despite them running away? And then will you try to cage the animal of fear in the midst of all this? Because that's really the truth.
That's the paradox.
We marry our childhood traumas.
I know.
In the other person. But we don't know it until we're lucky enough to uncover it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And we continue to we continue to create circumstances where our deepest suffering is triggered over and over and over and over and over. And it's like, okay, well, you got a choice that you just blame the other person for triggering that, or you use it as an opportunity to grow yourself.
Amen.
And by the way, that's going to be some pretty hard work, individually. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be confusing. It's going to be overwhelming. And then how do you support each other? That's a big topic for us that we've struggled with, is like, okay, now I know that what my negative core belief is, and I know what gets triggered, but how in the world do I stop doing it? Yeah. How in the world when you are pissed off at me, how do I stay present? And how do I know that, okay, it's okay, she can be pissed off at me and I can still stay present for it, and I can still be empowered and have a healthy voice in that movement. That was not an easy fix.
No.
And no couple we've ever worked with was it just like, oh, you have the realization and then, oh, okay, I got it.
It's trial and error. And
I just won't do that anymore.
Yeah. What do you actually need in those moments?
I just won't do that anymore. Yeah.
What do you need in those moments? How can I support you through that? And empathy. I mean, you mentioned empathy earlier. I mean, that is finding that space where you can have empathy. And that's another thing I think that we don't even see coming when we first get married, is how easy it is to lose empathy in our relationship. Oh my gosh. Anytime I would start to go into this like one up position where I would be hypercritical and nasty and mean, like I could not find it. The empathy was just gone. It's like, I hate you. I don't.
How did you get it back?
Well, no, see, that's what I wanted to have for our episode with them on us, because I want to do a whole interview on how you guys.
Yeah, how you got your empathy back.
That's going to be when we interview you. That is what I want.
We'll pause on that one then.
Yeah,
so
I would say the short answer, we can dig into this later, but I would say the short answer is I have to get myself back down from that one-up position by self-confronting. So for me, self-confronting is a huge piece, because I am in that state, entitled, righteous, right, and smarter and better than you. Yeah. And it's all about contempt. And so until I can see myself same as him, until I can see myself on the same level as him, which is usually like, okay, Charlotte, how would it be to actually be married to you? Okay, Charlotte, like, what is your role in this? Like, try to just, okay. Yeah, that would suck to be married to me.
You're protecting there's a part of you that's very tender and very vulnerable that's being protected by that.
Correct.
By that contempt. And that's what's so like freaking hard, is like, that's the part that has to talk to Robert.
Yes.
Right. That's the part that has to come up and show up. And it's like, well, why in that would I ever do that? Like that part obviously got injured, got hurt.
Yeah.
And this person, and they're acting as crazy as I am. So like, why would I bring out that vulnerable part? But what we found over the years was the times in which I would actually like stay present and then open up in a vulnerable way, she actually would show up for me.
I can handle it.
But when I've tried to protect myself, she was like, hated me. She hated me.
That's so good. Isn't that not the point? The point is vulnerability equals intimacy. Yet we don't think it is. And this part of ourselves, my abandonment issues, I dislike that part about myself. Mm-hmm. And so, I want to hide it. But what you're asking me to do is to bear that, to share that, and to hope that you won't hate it as much as I do, right? What a difficult position that is for us to share those parts of ourselves that we don't want to share. So much vulnerability. And much like EJ, our relationship changed dramatically the minute I was able to become vulnerable and say, look, these are the things that I'm struggling with. And I feel weak and vulnerable and all these things. And I feel that because I have an abandonment issue, because let's just say every father figure I ever had my entire life left, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like if I tell you that I'm weak, you'll just leave. It's this whole thing, right?
And how many people, and where did, especially men, where did we ever get a culture that was like going to be successful?
Never.
I mean, what we learned is like protect yourself one way or another. Either punch somebody in the nose or don't. Like certainly don't walk up with your arms open and be like, "Hey, here I am."
Yeah.
Because if you do that, you're gonna get the shit kicked.
Well, and I do think that for me, like I've done a lot of internal family systems work, parts work, recognizing like there's no bad parts, that all my parts, my angry part, my resentful part, my actually helped me so much as my stepmom, bonus mom role. But like there's no bad parts. There were just parts that were protecting me that would then get in the way, that were always younger. Cause I'd talk to like, let's just say my resentment part. And I'm like, do you know that I'm 49? And she'd be like, hell no, you're like 13. I'm like, no, girl, I'm 49. But knowing that I can actually be the adult and control my parts and talk to them and say, I love that you're here, but that's not going to be helpful right now. That was like one of the biggest pieces that helped me in my stepmom role, because I learned that I was over functioning. For those stepmoms out there or stepdads that are over functioning, like clarifying my role as a step parent that was when I started to have freedom with my stepkids. Before that, I was overwhelmed by that whole system. And then I was like, well, this is my role. This is not my role. Here's what I'm okay with. Here's what I'm not okay with.
So in what ways were you over functioning?
Oh my heavens. I was making sure that their clothes, their hair, their homework, their food, the schools I wanted them to go to, I was like, I didn't want them to feel like, because go ahead.
Well, one of the difficult parts was she was attempting to overfunction, but there was a limit of the actual like agency she could actually have, right? Like she wanted to impact them and get them into the organized sport or get them to the better school. But because there was this third that was in on the decision making, who had, court ordered ability to make those decisions, it drove her crazy, right? Because the reality is in, like right now our twins are 11 and we're trying to figure out which school they go to. We want to switch their school, right? And between us, we can disagree about it, but at the end of the day, she's going to have a big voice in that. And if she really wants to put her foot down that they're going to A instead of B, there's a good chance that is going to happen. She never would be able to have that same power with her stepchildren, with the older boys. I didn't even have that power, and I was their biological. And so then that resentment that she had towards the situation was pointed at me. You're not showing up in the way. You're not making this happen. You're a crappy communicator with your ex, which was all true. I mean, there was truth in it.
But because of that lack of communication between EJ and his ex, I would see like the kids falling through the cracks, whether it was education and not getting. So I would try to come in and save the day. And absolutely, that was not my role. Like it's for the mom and dad to like, I did not, like EJ said, I thought I had agency, but truly I didn't. I did not. And so I didn't know the clarity I needed. And so I would make sure that if they were missing 8 assignments, I'd make sure you guys have to make sure. And then I'd be like, why aren't you doing this, EJ? Why isn't the mom doing this? Like, why? But I didn't want them to feel unequal because I'm such a education advocate, right, for my children. I didn't want the boys seeing that, our twins are like in right now the #1 rated school in America they go to. So just to give you like a little idea, like, because I didn't get to have those experiences. So I want my children to have and I didn't want the boys to ever feel like they were without. But the truth is, like, we have a different living situation. 50% of the time, they have a very different environment than they do with us. And I had to come to this acceptance that and just talk to them about it. Like, hey, what's it like that, the twins are like really active in sports and have a ton, we have 9 kids coming over today to get ready for their Halloween dance versus I've never had a sleepover with the boys, my stepkids, because they weren't that social.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't cultivated in that way. And I'm a social person. And so I know that was kind of like a long answer to the question.
Well, that agency thing is so relatable, though. I think the power struggles that we have in a dyad in a relationship of two
Yes.
people is hard enough. But then now you have three or four more people that are involved in these decisions. And now I don't even know what you call it. It's not even a power struggle. It's just chaos. And
Chaos.
so like there's always going to be that feeling to some degree that I am powerless in this decision, or I'm thinking about a couple of friends or people that I know where, their relationship is like, this is my child and you don't get to parent my child. You don't get to make the decisions for my child because it's the
Yeah.
stepdad or it's the stepmom. And
Yeah.
those are hard, but very real challenges to try to figure out how to navigate.
Yeah. I think
yeah.
one of the biggest agitators in our relationship around the whole blended family was the fact that I had very dysfunctional communication with my ex, and Tara bared the sort of like byproduct of that, and she didn't get to decide. With her and I, she can be like, she can really advocate, again, back to agency, about us having a certain, healthiness or whatever in our communication. But she just sort of had to accept this really poor situation that involved these two kids, and she really resented me for it. And I just didn't know. And even to this day, in some ways, like, it's like, how do you get to a healthy communication with somebody that, like, it broke down to the point that you divorced them, and it was just like, it was just a mess. And so I think what we did eventually was we just survived it. We survived it. We worked on our communication as best we could. We set boundaries together, and then I communicated them, but it was a heck of a lot of work. And
I mean, that's the thing though, right? With blended families, right? Or with the two of us, we had to say, what are the clear boundaries between the two of us? We cannot control anything that's going to happen externally at the other house, with the other person, with the boys, whatever, but we can control this and what we say and the boundaries we have and what means something. Like, EJ, I need you to follow through on their grades every week and just let me know that like they're doing okay at school. So that way I'm not, especially during COVID, they got behind like 90 assignments. I was a wreck because no one else was watching. I was like, they're behind 90 assignments. 90. And I just said, EJ, I can't do it. I'm starting to resent this role. Can you take this over and then just share with me that you're following through with it? So once we started having boundaries and systems to it, I trusted that he could do it. But before, when it was chaos, I was like, I'm the only person that can do it.
well, and
And that's not true. But
even now, I like, the middle son, he's 17. I'm like, okay, Tara,
every week,
he's got 4 A's, 2 B's, and a C. And even our oldest son, who's at college now, he's doing well in school. He's got his meal plan. Like, I just know, like, I need to keep her updated. Like,
yeah.
because she doesn't have that same relationship that I do, I still have to communicate those things because she cares about them. She cares about them. And some part of her identity is that they succeed in life and that they're well.
And I have a better relationship with them and my husband because my role feels very healthy now.
Oh, I love that.
Versus when it was just like me over functioning for everything and everybody. Like, no thanks. So that's not even, but that's just what I did as a kid, right? I'm a caretaker to keep the peace.
I can see how hard that would be, though, Tara, in your role to have such good intentions and want to give those boys the best life that you can give them, and then have not the power or the agency to be able to do that and still be able to say, okay, well, I still want updates, but I know I need to let this go. I know I need to let these things go and let someone else take over and not and just function in a way that is appropriate for my role. And what is my role? And I have to, there's just a lot of letting go in what you're describing that would be really hard for me. I've never lived that. That's not been, we've been on the other side where we've been the children and in those homes, but we've never been the parent. So I'm like putting myself in your shoes thinking, wow, that would be so hard to love these kids so much and not be able to do the things you want to do.
It was the hardest thing in the world. And like, anyone could listen to this, like the one thing I've learned is I had to trust EJ that he could handle this. Because if I didn't, we wouldn't be together. But it's not fair for me to overfunction because now I don't give EJ the chance to be like taking over what needs to be taken over, right? So now I'm just enabling him to not do it, which he's totally capable of. And so overfunctioning, even though you think it's safe and you can control it, it's actually one of the worst things because you enable other people to not develop those skills. In my relationship with my boys, the step boys, so much better now that I let control go. But I used to see them on their screens all the time, like, oh my God, they're going to like end up homeless. Like the catastrophic thoughts I would go to because of my own disconnection as a child and having horrible, caregivers, my whole trauma played into that. But trusting that EJ could take over that role was one of the best things that we can do. But so many couples don't do that. They just start to resent and then they don't understand the idea of over functioning and then they just leave. And it's actually like the kindest thing I can do is say, EJ, that's not my job. I love you. That's your job. And here's what would help me know that like this is important to you too. That's our best chance that we've got, because otherwise we've seen so many couples in our center with blended family stuff that are just, they either like, just check out and then you have two kids seeing a checked out parent. Like that's
I think
not
that's
good.
got to be a big part. Because what's their whole like second marriages, like 75% or so?
That's 68%.
68.
Yeah.
So, that has to
64.
be a big part of it is just the amount of stress that comes from blended families. Something like 1 in 3 individuals in the United States either was a child in a blended family or is a parent in a blended family.
That's a big number. It's such a challenge just from, so my mom had been married 4 times and I had 4 different stepdads. Well, 1 father and then 3 different stepdads. And I remember the difficulty somewhere. Some were kind situations, some were not kind situations. And I feel so much for Tarah because I'm sitting here going, like, you've had those boys 17, so 11 years minimum, right?
No, like 17 years, 15 years.
15 years,
yeah. 15 years. They're your boys. And I can hear that in your voice and I can see that in the emotion. And to be able to set your boundary, which in your mind is letting go, showing that you don't care. That's not what it means to you, right? Yeah. And how difficult that was. And then for EJ to, and as a child of that, to now communicate with his ex in this situation who he didn't communicate well with, who there's still a lot of wounds around the communication. I'm just sitting there going like, oh, this is terrible. I feel
so hard.
I'm just like, oh my gosh, man, you guys,
well, it's so funny because like, as you were saying your piece, I was thinking of here you are, a grown man but I'm thinking of you as a boy and all of the interactions between your mom and these men and what you internalized in those moments because kids make everything about them.
Yeah.
And all of the dysfunction or whatever. And even the struggles that we had that like we were always pretty conscious though of like, wow, this is affecting these kids. Like they didn't choose, you didn't choose to have 3 stepdads and a dad who wasn't in the house, but yet you soaked it all in.
Yeah. And how that played into
this relationship,
how that played into, honestly, my role as a father is a whole separate podcast,
I can't wait to interview you guys.
Yeah. How do I told my kids that so many times, like, I don't know how to be a dad. Like I'm just trying here. I'm just trying to lead with love and I'm trying to figure it out. And I just want to be present, Yeah.
You had like the sampling platter of male influence, right?
Yes. The one that's my sampling platter was the fish that was been left on the table for 3 days. None of it was good. None of it was great. I don't think I had a great example for any of one of those. My biological dad, but they were gone when I was 4.5, 5. So that was that.
I think my favorite thing so far that we've talked about has just been this idea of overfunctioning. And my brain is spinning out on it because I mean, whether you have kids or you don't have kids, maybe you're listening to this episode today like, I'm not in a blended family. But we can look at the ways in which we are overfunctioning in every relationship that we have. And what Tarah said is so valuable that when we are overfunctioning, we are robbing other people of the growth and the potential that and the lessons that they need to learn in order to be the best version of themselves. In the home I grew up in, which obviously you guys know now, it's both of us came from pretty dysfunctional backgrounds, but there was a lot of addiction. And in that was a lot of codependency and a lot of overfunctioning all over the place. And so when you look at, especially, with my siblings I had a brother that I lost to addiction, and just so much overfunctioning that you're not doing anyone any good to do the things that another person can do for themselves.
Yet you're compelled for survival to do it because you think that's what's going to create safety. I'll never forget when my therapist was like, Tara, when your kids are in college, are you going to do their math homework for them? And I'm like, what? She's like, because I was like, every night they have this crazy math. And I'm like, if I don't do it, and it's bringing so much anxiety. And she's like, why? Let them get an F. Let them fail. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But then I let go. And yeah, exactly. I remember she's like, are you going to go with them to college? And I'm thinking, yeah. But that was a huge insight. I was like, you're right. Like, it's okay. I think when we have neglectful parents, right? It sounds like all of us had neglectful parents. I was doing what I thought was right, but it was overfunctioning. So it wasn't healthy, but I thought it was. I'm like, I'll do anything for them. I'll give them everything I never got.
Well, and the cost of overfunctioning is one, I've seen Tarah just burn herself out.
Totally.
Just to the point where she has nothing to give, quite frankly, herself. But also when she overfunctions, then who's underfunctioning? That was me, oftentimes myself, where I was just like, well, there's no space to function here because I wake up and you're like, well, I already did your chores for you.
Oh, yeah.
The day is organized. And I'm like, well, I'll just go back to bed, I mean,
Not really like that. But
no,
still.
not really. But sometimes it feels like that when, being on the flip side of the overfunctioner, where the overfunctioner just occupies so much space.
We just do everything you want to do. We just do everything that person wants to do. And whatever that person thinks, that's what we go along with. And I was like Tarah. I was with our early, with our first kids, I was definitely way over functioning, and I think a lot of it, yes, on some level, it was definitely that safety, but it was also like, if they perform in a certain way, then we look a certain way as a family, and I look a certain way as a mother. And so I can control the perceptions of others by how I control my kids. And so I think for the early part of our, it was like, oh, you have a science fair project. Oh, let me do it for you.
Let it be
You have to do a state report. Guess what? I can draw all your pictures for you. Let me do it. Because then when you turn it in and you get an A, it makes me look good as a mom.
Yeah.
And, now we're on our fourth kid. And of course it's taken a while, but now it's like, I'm not doing a thing. You're getting an F. I don't care. You want it. You can't get into college. Oh, well, sucks for you. Now I'm kind of like maybe a little too far gone the other way, where maybe I should be paying attention a little bit more to what's going on. But that was a big lesson in what is it I'm getting out of this overfunctioning? What is it doing for me?
Yeah, we think it's keeping us safe, but actually it's burning us out. And well, I'm excited to get to know your guys' story for sure because it is true, for you guys to have gone through what you've gone through in your childhood, to stay together 34 years you've been together.
Yeah.
We know we got through it because I was compelled as a therapist. I need to
overfunction this relationship into
I'm going to overfunction it across the line. I'm going to carry us both across the finish line. I don't care.
But what makes us stay? I love that question. What makes us stay through all the pain and suffering? That's the heart of it. That's the beauty of, just this dynamic with the four of us. We stayed. No matter how ugly it got and how little we got and how many tantrums we had. We stayed.
Yeah.
Here we
That is
are.
a really good question. I think it'd be fun for all of us to answer that. Like what made you guys stay?
I mean, I just know and have seen Tarah has this amazing sparkle. I mean, there's just something about her that is just incredibly beautiful and pure. And I want to be with her in life. I also really want to get over my own stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And I saw like how much I was triggered by our relationship. And I did see it as like, I can get better here. I can get better here. And hopefully I can be next to this sparkle in the, in the process.
Love
Oh,
that.
that's
Thank
so
you.
sweet.
Yeah.
For for me, it was, I mean, EJ and I met when I was 35? We started,
35-ish.
And I'd been a really good picker of guys. Like I'd always pick like very smart, like MIT, like just not emotionally intelligent, but very intelligent, like where I could kind of control the emotional part of it. So I could, and I remember EJ, I tried to like manipulate him, not purposely, but like, I'm not ready to really be in a really, and he was like, well, yeah, I'm not ready to like, I don't want to see you date other people. Like he just had this confidence and these values, and had such integrity. And I remember I tried to break up with him, and he's like, okay, like that sucks, but it'd be cool if we could be friends. And I remember I woke up the next day and I'm like, I don't want to do life without EJ. And never had I ever felt that. So it was like his integrity and confidence, like that he was standing by his own values despite what I said in our early time together, that I was just like, I like this guy. He's not going to let me mess with him. I know that
love
sounds
that
really
story.
mean, but it's true.
What wisdom? Let's kind of start wrapping things up.
Because we're going to catch up with them on another episode.
Yeah,
I'm really sure about that.
What wisdom do you think that we haven't already talked about today that you could give to a blended household right now, a couple who's struggling? These aren't my kids, your kids, they're my kids, and you're not doing it right. And like all the things that you guys, where you were at before, what would you say to a couple that's really in it right now and really struggling? Not sure they're going to figure out a way forward.
That's a good question. I want to take it from your part as like the biological part of it, and I'll do it from the step.
That's so complicated because it hits two things. And one is like just your relationship.
Yeah.
But then there's also like this responsibility of there's these little people who are developing into the human being that they're going to be based upon what's happening around them. And so I guess like what would tie those together would be some ruthless accountability. That the only thing that's gotten us, not the only thing, but one of the primary thing that's got us through everything we've gone through is we both stayed very committed to being accountable for our part in the dysfunction.
Yeah.
And even when we screwed up and got things wrong, we not only were accountable to each other, but we were accountable to all the kids. We let them know what happened. We didn't pretend it didn't happen. We didn't really blame each other. I would say I messed that up. I was a jerk last night. I said things that I shouldn't have said, or wow, last night's dinner was super tense and not fun, wasn't it? I'm sorry. Like I and your mom or your B mom, we were really struggling. That kids are okay, and partners, I think, are okay with messing up when we mess up. But when we don't take accountability for it, we pretend it didn't happen, or we say it was your fault, kids will definitely just assume on some level it was their fault. It'll be the most natural thing for the older boys to think is like, yeah, if every time they come over, we get into an argument, it must be their fault. And so I would say like accountability is pretty darn important.
And having the family meeting. So first thing is clear expectations and roles. I had the role of everything and we never talked about it. And so now that we have clearly defined roles and boundaries, That is huge. And another thing is with blended families, right? We had the kids 50% of the time they would come in. Dr. Stan Tatkin, I don't know if you guys know of him. He's the Pact Institute. They call him the mad scientist of, marital research. He's pretty amazing. Predict, plan, prepare. Every time we have the 4 kids transition, we predict, okay, the boys are going to come over and they love being on their screen, and that makes Tarah crazy. Let's plan for it. Let's prepare for it. EJ will be like, okay, I'm going to have them go walk the dogs like an hour after they get home from school. And right. So we had to predict, plan, prepare during every transition, because that's the thing. Kids have a really hard time with transition from 2 different households, which are very, very different. Ours is this live, energetic, kids over all the time, constant go, go, go. Their mom's house is chill. That's it. Chill. And so they would, right? So how do you make sure that you have a predict, plan, prepare for those transitions for the kids and as a couple? And that is what, when we don't do it, we'll forget. And I'll be like, EJ, we freaking forgot to predict, plan, prepare for today. And that's why, right? Because it takes the boys like 2 to 3 days to adjust just to come back into our house. But now that we know that, we can have a plan for that so we can support each other and them in it. So I guess
that's a lot of wisdom right there. I think what both of you said is so valuable to think about, the radical responsibility and accountability, on that side of it is really just, it's like looking at like, what are your goals? And it's not just what's best for me. It's what's best for me, what's best for Robert, what's best for our kids, what's best for the entire system. And then when we're not our best, owning it and being responsible for that. I think that was so important. And then of course, like I love the predict and the plan and prepare. It's so true. There's just, it's when we're taken off guard that we're most likely to be triggered and not our regulated wise self. And so, having those conversations.
You guys are awesome. I love that. That's such a perfect way to level out those obstacles that are going to happen, because at least you've made a plan for it. And failure to plan is failure to prepare. That's always the way that works.
Exactly.
So tell our listeners how they can find you guys, the name of your website, and the name of your podcast, just so if they want to continue to follow you, they can.
Yeah, I mean, relationshiprenovation.com is a good launching point. From there, if somebody's local to Arizona, they can hook up with our counseling center. It's also where they can hook up with our global coaching and our Patreon community as well. And then the Relationship Renovation podcast is available everywhere.
And we just had our Relationship Renovation at Home manual published on Amazon. So now couples can go through like the model we created for our in-office at home. Obviously, some couples might need deeper work, and they'll know once they start the process of it if they need to have therapy. But that's been exciting. It's something we've been working on for a really long time. So that feels really good.
Congratulations. That's really exciting.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you both so much for spending time with us today. It was a real joy for us. It was for me, and to hear your stories and to share your struggles. I think it's so relatable. And I think everyone needs to know that there's hope and that, regardless of where you are, you can do it. If the 4 of us are sitting here today, nothing else, it's proof that, broken people can come from broken homes and create something better. And there is hope. And so I love that we kind of have these common threads. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you to you all at home for listening to us today, ramble on and share our stories. If today's episode resonated with you, of course, go follow EJ and Tarah, and be sure to like this episode, follow, subscribe to both shows. And if this you feel like would benefit someone else, be sure to share this episode with someone that that might be in the trenches right now. So thank you so much for being here. Remember to be kind to each other this week. Put each other first. It's the small things done often that create the biggest impact. Until next time.